All right, we are, I believe, live on YouTube. Let's do this. Okay, cool. This is Townhall number 39. Kerry here. I'm standing in for Rajani. She's away this week. So this town hall is primarily going to be an update from Jared, and we'll also have a quick look at V1, and then a bit of Q&A at the end. 1 second. Okay, before we start, a quick update from People Ops. As you all know, the offsite is in September. So there's 25 of you that still haven't booked flights. If you could do that, that would be amazing, and just put them in on the spreadsheet. We're still figuring out the agenda, but what we'd like to do, if you have any ideas about what you'd like to do with your time there, like in terms of like the FaceTime, should that be more social time or stuff to do together? So we'd really like to know. There's a post in Discuss. If you could just drop by there and share your thoughts, that would be great. Okay, over to Jared.
All right. Yeah, so basically, we had a pretty rough year so far, but it's time to start thinking about the future. So Carl, myself, Nabil, JB, and a bunch of others, we've been kind of chatting about this and want to propose some ideas for looking forward into 2020 and the future. Next slide. So I just wanted to start off with this quote. I mean, it's a slide that I've used in the past as well. We shape our tools, and thereafter our tools shape us. And I think this is really important to keep in mind for what we're doing. We've got things like Libra and a bunch of other things that are coming out that claim to be like blockchains or claim to be decentralized in some form. But when you start looking at them in closer detail, you find out that it's really not the case. And quite frankly, the way things are going in this space, working with different regulators and not really trying to help them understand this technology and its implications, it's just not going to advance society in any meaningful way. In fact, it's probably going to create really bad tools. And they can be certainly misused much worse than they can be, than things are already today. And that's, I won't get too philosophical, but status isn't just a piece of software. It's a view on how we view the world should be. A world where people have assurances of their rights, a right to communicate, to transact with anyone they please, whenever they please. It's a world with much more permeable borders and a liberation of commerce. For billions of people on this planet, they don't know it yet, but it's just the beginnings of their rise out of poverty. This is where the individual is respected in the collective and where power can rise without necessarily erasing the past. A population, a society that can be assured in this memory, and a society that can be remember and learn from its successes and its failures. Next slide. And if you ever need any reminders of that, the principles is a great place to look at. I won't go into them. We should all know them by now. But this certainly gives the deepness into how we create our software and what we're actually trying to build. And it puts us in a completely different competitive league than anyone else. Next slide. So we more or less started out with the question when coming into the space and starting Status, with this idea or question that could we actually build a secure communication tool that can uphold human rights, enable community money, community law, and through privacy, also preserve culture? And that's up until now, that's predominantly what we've been doing. We've been focusing largely on building out Status, this amazing super app that has chat, wallet, a dApp browser. We've managed to support multiple platforms. Yeah, we've pretty much done it, right? We've proved it could be done. But it's not without its issues. The decentralized web itself isn't really ready yet, and neither are we. And I kind of wanted to point out that our tagline here, the gateway to a decentralized web, yeah, previous slide, but it's fine. The gateway to decentralized web is what we've been operating under up until now. But it's time to change, and we'll talk about that later. Next slide. Yeah. And if you zoom out, like to see what we're already doing today, we already have these fantastic projects underway. One is Embark, this amazing dApp developer tooling, one of the only and oldest toolings out there, frameworks for creating true decentralized applications, as in the original vision. We have Keycard, which is one of the parallel use cases of the smart card that would never really saw the light of day until now, and we're willing that into existence. That vision was laid out by the founder, the creator of Java cards or smart cards. And of course, Nimbus, our foray into Ethereum 2, our research and infrastructure branch. So Status is becoming larger than just an application. Next slide. So what is Status today? Well, currently we work on all areas of the Web3 stack. We started off with the idea of onboarding users with the application. We're still working on that. We have developer tooling with Embark, which is also onboarding of developers. And we are starting to foray into use cases themselves, such as the telenetwork. We've also been working on the protocols and infrastructure. We've been working on Nimbus on Ethereum 2. We've been doing the minimum viable data sync, which is now turning into VAC P2P. And we have Keycard. Also, Barry's excellent work with Corey has been looking at token engineering. And we don't do too much research at the moment, but hopefully that can change. So what is Status tomorrow? Well, we have to start now thinking about how to get this decentralized web ready for consumers, ready for Status, the application. We need to invest more into the stack. This means becoming much more competent in research, in protocol design, and infrastructure. It also means stimulating real-world dApp use cases. So why does Status need to grow? Well, like I've been saying, the decentralized web, it still has its issues. The largest of which actually exists because of Ethereum's failure to deliver on the original promise, a promise that we built our business on. And it seems like we're in a position now where we not only need to, but we're also becoming more capable of taking on the responsibility of messaging and file storage. So where can we be better? Again, this is all about protocol infrastructure, particularly solving messaging and decentralized file storage. It's helping Embark get adoption. And it's also creating the missing components of Keycard, such as the payment network. And it's becoming more integrated within our very small crypto community. So with incentivized messaging, you may or may not notice, but using Status, it isn't the best user experience in terms of messaging. Dean and Oscar have been doing some great works in terms of getting data consistency up there. Dean's also been working on doing ultra light beam, which is a Bluetooth transport. But we're going to be taking this effort a lot more seriously moving from now on into the future. We're going to be building a modular private messaging protocol that's going to have a whole bunch of features, and hopefully we can even move into mixed nets in the future as well. We're also going to take on decentralized file storage. Today's dApps, they aren't really dApps. At best, they're Web 2.5. A lot of them are hosted on traditional Web 2.0 servers. And it's just so far away from the ideal. Things like IPFS aren't really designed that well. That's a different topic. So we think we can help contribute to this by creating an implementation that is also incentivized with SNT. And hopefully it can be built on top of our messaging stack. This will also be really interesting for Embark, as we can encourage dApps to be deployed onto it and to get utility in the actual network. Which leads me to Embark. We're going to be thinking about a new campaign, a new narrative of taking back the web. You can imagine Embark becoming something like a startup studio or a dApp studio, where instead of creating dApps ourselves, what we can do is we can help provide designs, tooling, and more importantly, coordination for community-led projects to take back the web. This means like creating alternatives to popular web properties such as Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, these sort of things. You can imagine dApps being their own little dicos, of course, we can encourage them to deploy on our incentivized file storage. Not that it has to be. We also need to bump up real-world integration, and that's pretty much what KeyCard do. KeyCard is not just about a hardware wallet, but it's a tool for adoption. Between KeyCard and the status application, we pretty much cover most of the electronic payments UX flows. If we can develop a payment network around it, we can actually have a real chance at creating an open Visa alternative that actually has merchant-friendly incentives. And we can also imagine the status application becoming a point of sales terminal in this network. We're also looking to become much more horizontally integrated. We've been quite narrow focused and inward focused this past year and a half. We're looking to spread back out. We want to start developing much stronger partnerships, becoming stakeholders in other projects in the space, and hopefully vice versa. So all of that was pretty much just a long-winded way of saying that we're going to build a messaging protocol team. We're going to be building a decentralized file storage team. We're going to be investing much more heavily in business development and particularly community building. And we want the organization to become a value-adding partnership, which is this whole stakeholders and other project stuff. So going back to that tagline of a gateway to a decentralized web, perhaps it's time for us to change. Next slide. And perhaps, I don't know if this will be it, but this is much more of an accurate statement of what we are today and what we hope to grow further into being. We're a network that makes it possible for any developer to build and publish the next generation of distributed applications. We're a return to the original Web3 vision. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. That was really cool. Cheers. All right, like I mentioned earlier, it's a bit of a brief Swarm update. I believe we have Rachel.
Do we want to do Q&A on this first, and then we can go to the updates?
Yeah, that could be good. Does anyone have any questions here that's in the call?
We can do it before and after, yeah. But
I would actually love to ask what the vision is for the client, given these updates.
I mean, the client needs to needs to continue supporting itself. It needs the application performance sorted. That's still, I saw 3 days ago that's like 17 seconds just to boot up. It continues doing all the feature enhancements and maintenance that it currently has, and we can figure out what other things we want to add to it as we move forward into the future. There's a whole bunch of other complexities there as well. For example, like, I don't know if you've seen, but there's this alternative to ENS, such as Alpine, I think it's called, which might actually be another way of doing name registering, which I'm sure that brings a lot of heartache to everybody.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Any other questions? Feel free to just jump in. Nope. All right, everyone happy to move ahead?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yes, like I saw you just pinged. Did you want to say something? Let me just make sure you can talk. 1 second. Okay, Jacek, you should be able to chat just now.
All right, let's see if this works. Yeah, I just wanted to add to that like with all these infrastructure projects going, it's pretty exciting that the core application becomes sort of a reference showing the possibilities of what you can do with the network. And then the protocols and the infrastructure projects enable others to do the same and build their own client, which suits their needs perfectly, so that we can start seeing all these possibilities Jared was talking about in different contexts than maybe just like a simple phone app. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And Hester also made another question there, I see, in terms of asking what the timelines would be in terms of building out these teams. We don't know exactly yet. So with the file storage one, basically we are planning to have the implementation of libp2p, which is the underlying networking stack. Hopefully we're done with that within the next 6 months. So I suspect that we'll be building the team during that time as well. And the same would be going for messaging. To add to that, we are doing a collaboration with Swarm. So we're helping fund some of their developers and researchers to help get their specification up to par and also work on some of the messaging stuff. So I wouldn't say that's part of the core team necessarily, but there are resources starting to be deployed to working on these problems.
Cool, thanks. And I'm sure, like, if you have any questions you think of after this, it's always the way. We can maybe start like a discuss thread or something. So yeah, if anything comes to mind later, don't worry, this isn't your only chance to ask. All right, anyone else, just quickly? I see the chat box pinging. This is from Eric. Is the file system going to be based on Swarm or just collaboration?
I think it's a little too early to say. I think it'll heavily be influenced by Swarm, if not entirely based on it. It'll certainly be more Swarm-like than anything else. Dimitri, who just joined us, he worked on the Mustacolor project as well. So I'm sure he has a lot of really interesting ideas that he would like to deploy.
Cool. All right, thanks, Jared. Onwards to Swarm updates, unless I see any other pings going once, going twice. No, I think we're good. All right, cool. Yeah, I believe it's Rachel giving this update. Is that right, Rachel?
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool.
I've got 2 slides today. The first is just an update on where we're at with V1. So we had a call last week or the week before to once again refine the scope and make sure that we had it to, again, the minimum viable scope for security audit code freeze. So there are actually 2 milestones associated with V1. The first is the code freeze, and that's what the third-party team will be auditing. And there's certain sort of security essential features that have to be completed by that date. But then secondarily, after that, there will be an actual release cutoff. And before the release cutoff, we'll be able to make more improvements and changes to the UI, surface level things that don't necessarily need to go into the audit. But we decided as a team that to deliver V1 faster for the code freeze, we will cut a few non-essential features. We're going to reduce the number of different account types that we support in multi-account out of the gate. We're going to be moving security critical items from our Realm.js database to status quo, but not the full scope of what exists in Realm today, which actually should lead to some significant performance improvements. And we're also, the biggest news for our users, going to be starting all accounts fresh in version 1. So there will be really no form of backwards compatibility between version 1 and beta versions of the client. And this will affect all users, and there will be details on this to come in a blog post shortly. But the kind of TLDR of that is just make sure you have your seed phrase for your status account. And if you don't, and you have funds in your account, then you'll need to move those out of status to another secure wallet before V1 comes out later this fall. And this link in the slide will take you to the long form notes from the scoping meeting that we had. And if you scroll down to the very bottom of that, you will find a highlight of all the decisions that were made around V1. That's it for that slide. The other piece of news from the core team this week is that we're going to be making another interim release. That'll be beta version 0.14. So we've been on 2 parallel paths here in July. Core team is preparing that release and also building for V1 at the same time. And the release is actually pretty exciting. We'll be launching the sticker market on mainnet. So you'll soon be able to buy and send stickers in chat and status. We have an updated UI for our onboarding, some bug fixes, and then importantly, for anybody who's not watching Townhall, we're going to include a bunch of notifications and nudges around the V1 breaking changes that are coming up, so that hopefully people will have awareness for that. And that's it from me. It was a quick one today.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Cheers for that. So that's really the end of our scheduled content. We have one question kind of preset for our Q&A. But yeah, we'll just invite anyone who's here, you know, going back to what Jared spoke about earlier, if you think of any questions that you still want to ask, you're very welcome. If you don't have a participant status that allows you to talk, feel free to raise your hand or just ping in the chat box and we'll get to you. Cool. So the question we have is from Wars Over John, and he asked, Maker recently opened up applications for multi-collateral DAI. Has Status made an application for SNT to be considered?
I think maybe Ben, if someone can unmute him. Let me see.
Just a sec. All right, Ben, should work now.
Hello.
Yep,
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. We've been invited to be part of the integration group, and we had our first call last week. Not much can be discussed in terms of integration because there's some information around their roadmap and sensitive timelines and things. But the idea is basically that we're part of the first batch that will be part of their basically the collateral token onboarding and governance process around that.
Cool. Sounds promising. Thanks, Ben. Any other questions from anyone here? And I don't know if there's anything on YouTube either. If someone could check that, that would be awesome. I can't see it from here. Nope.
I think there's a question in the Status Townhall channel from Barry. It says, is there any view on current state / vision from Swarm in regards to decentralized file storage?
I mean, I can't speak to Swarm as a project directly. I'm not sure if I can answer that question, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, Barry, you might want to ask Oscar and the protocol team. He's been pretty close with them. They might have a better insight as to what their current timeline is.
I think I can mention a few things. I think Swarm right now is trying to focus their attention on their core competency, which is the file part of it, and then layering on top of that and launching in a few months the incentives as well. So at least from their presentation during the Swarm Summit, where you'll find all of what I'm saying now and hopefully with better accuracy, the idea is that they'll be launching in the next few months, and they're practically right now in bug fixing mode to make sure that they have a stable product. And then that should grow into a sort of a protocol spec as well in the near future.
Thanks, Jacek. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, so I think we're good. And I believe that concludes our town hall. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. And yeah, have a nice day. Cheers.
Sorry, just quickly, as Carrie said, if there is feedback on any of this stuff, we'll make a discuss post with the slides from the town hall, and then feel free to comment. And yeah, so we can start the dialogue. And this is all in preparation so that when we're all together in Istanbul, we can actually start to plan out what the next 12, 24 months looks like for Status. So it's exciting times.
Indeed. Cheers, Nabil. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right.
Thanks.